Hi, welcome to the Barry's Game Room. I'm Aaron as always, and today we're continuing our review of the Rhodes trilogy of games. Today I'm going to tell you guys about Don't Talk to Strangers. The game is for 1 to 4 players, and I definitely disagree with the age count again of 12 and up, but in this game, you were trying to get students from their school to various places around town, like homes and pools and parks and all that, for points, while avoiding the strangers. One cool thing about this is actually this double-sided board that it comes with. Helps keep the game fresh, as well as gives you a choice between an easier game and a more challenging game. All you really need for setup after deciding which board you're playing on is to make sure every player has all the kids of a certain color, and then have every player draw 3 cards. If any of the cards you draw are these stranger cards, you'll discard them away and draw a new card till every player has a clean fresh hand of 3 cards with no strangers. On your turn, you only have 2 options. You can either let out a kid, which just means placing one of your kid tiles onto the school start space, or you can play a movement card, which usually let you move your pieces around the board or jump between specific spots. 2 important rules to note are that from the start of the game, you can only have 1 kid on the board at a time, and you must move the exact number of spaces on the card unless you're moving them into a scoring space. Let's talk about the board. First, all these numbers you see are the scoring spaces I mentioned. Getting your characters to these spaces score you points for the end of the game. Some special things to note are that places like the park actually increase the number of kids you can have on the board at any time, allowing you to have 2 or 3 kids moving around the board at the same time. Or the library here, which increases your hand size from 3 on up for however many kids you have there. Also to note, obviously, is these alien heads you see all over the place. These are the stranger spaces. Whenever one of these stranger cards is drawn out of the deck, you'll end up placing one of these stranger tokens on any one of these spaces somewhere on the board that doesn't already have a stranger. That space is now impassable. No kids are allowed to move through that space without some special ruling from a card. Bus cards allow you to jump between any 2 school bus or city bus locations, depending on which card you played. And saucer cards give you a 50% chance of removing any kid from the board, even ones that have already scored. The game ends when the last stranger is placed on the board or when a player has gotten all their kids scored, which is unlikely to happen. At first, this was actually my least favorite game from the trilogy, but for some reason now it's actually, I think, my favorite. There's a lot of other cards I didn't talk about that add a lot of variety and kind of chaos to the game, and I don't know, I just kind of dig it. I may not be able to fully explain why, but Don't Talk to Strangers is Baron approved.